Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we get the rare opportunity to hear Srila Prabhupada's books read at least an hour, just straight Srila Prabhupada, before we open the doors to the ecstasy of the reflections of the devotees. And this is a wonderful combination of things, like a jewel with so many facets that are lighting up the world, literally. Thank you all for attending. I have a little announcement to make, happy announcement. Today we actually finished the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. We did 57 pages, and these are not ordinary 57 pages. When we were talking about 75, 80, 90, 100, this is like that, because it were long, intricate, Prabhupada in the purports is dismantling the Mayavad philosophy, and Lord Chaitanya is dismantling the Mayavad sannyasis philosophy. And so it was really, really ecstatic. I couldn't stop. Past 9 o'clock. Yeah. About 4 hours. Yeah, it was really intense, but very wonderful. We could have had a party, but there was no one else but me and so we just sat there and vibrated each other. That's the extent of our social life nowadays. and of course this, which is the most important thing in my life. Okay. Srila Sanatana Goswami. He was actually there. Lord Chaitanya came back. He came to Varanasi, and then he met with Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra. And then he went to Vrindavan. And they were in complete anxiety, because when he went there, all the Mayavadi sannyasis started criticizing him. So they had to tolerate all this criticism while Lord Chaitanya went to Vrindavan. Then when he came back, their level of tolerance came to the point where they couldn't tolerate it moments more. So they asked Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya just smiled. And just as he smiled, a Brahmin walked in to invite him to come to a lunch that he had planned out, because he had also heard the criticisms and couldn't tolerate. So he thought, maybe if I just asked Lord Chaitanya to come to a lunch with everybody there, he would come. And he did, but it was just to pacify Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar. And Sanatana Goswami was there. And then after this, Lord Chaitanya discussed, or before, I don't remember exactly whether it was before, during, or after, but it was during that time that he, instructed Sanatana Goswami for 2 months. So there was quite a, eventful, and at the end, everyone was worshipping Lord Chaitanya. There were hundreds and thousands of devotees there. And they couldn't all see him, and he would come out in the porch and raise his hands in the air and say Hari, Hari, and everybody just went crazy. So this was a Mayavadi stronghold. There were no Vaishnavas there except for Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra, and Lord Chaitanya converted the whole place. It was amazing pastime. But Sanatana Goswami was there, and he not only got the teachings, but he saw Lord Chaitanya in action. It was amazing. So Sanatana Goswami, after all this experience, he wrote a glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam called Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram. It comes as 5 verses within a larger work called Krishna Lila Stava, Sri Krishna Lila Stava, which is Sanatana Goswami's planned offering of 108 obeisances to the Vrindavan pastimes of Krishna. And this is the 107th obeisance out of 108. Srimad Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, and it goes like this. Sarvashastabdi Piyusha Sarvalo Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprida. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad-Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwandoditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madgudo Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin atini chochatakada hanamunchakada chenmam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, spot quiz. What? Snap quiz. What's the name of the chapter?
Beyond renunciation and detachment.
Got one.
Or knowledge. Beyond renunciation and knowledge.
What does it say in the book?
Beyond knowledge and detachment.
Beyond renunciation and
Beyond renunciation and knowledge. Anyway, got the concepts there. You got it. Very good. All right, we're starting with chapter 12. We're only on chapter 3, text 3. Beyond renunciation and knowledge. You know what that means? Hare Krishna. In every yuga, many living entities entangled in the modes of passion and ignorance gained the association of my devotees. Thus, such living entities as the Daityas, Rakshasas, birds, beasts, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Siddhas, Charanas, Guyakas, and Vidyadharas, as well as such lower class human beings as the Vaishyas, Shudras, women, others, were able to achieve my supreme abode. Vritrasura, Prahlad Maharaj, and others like them also achieved my abode by association with my devotees, as did personalities such as Vrishaparva, Bali Maharaj, Banasura, Maya, Vibhishana, Sugriva, Hanuman, Jambavan, Gajendra, Jatayu, Tuladara, Dharmavyada, Kubja, the gopis in Vrindavan, and the wives of the brahmanas who were performing sacrifice. Purport. The Lord has mentioned devotees such as the gopis in Vrindavan, and also demons like Banasura, to illustrate how he comes under the control of those surrendered to him, who surrender to him. It is understood that devotees like the gopis and other mentioned here obtained pure love of Krishna, whereas the demons generally obtained only salvation. Many demons were purified by association with devotees and came to accept devotional service to the Lord as the most important among the various activities in their lives. But the exalted devotees like Prahlad and Bali Maharaj know nothing except devotional service, which they accept as their very life. Still, the reformed demons are also mentioned so that readers of Srimad-Bhagavatam will understand the enormous benefits one may achieve by associating with devotees of the Lord. The demon Vritrasura was the pious King Chitraketu in his previous life, during which he associated with Sri Narada Muni, Sri Angira Muni, and Lord Sankarshan. Prahlad Maharaj, being the son of Hiranyakashipu, is considered a daitya, or demon. Yet while still in the womb of his mother, Kayadu, he associated with Narada Muni by sound vibration. The demon Vrishaparva was abandoned by his mother at birth, but he was raised by a Muni and became a devotee of Lord Vishnu. Bali Maharaj associated with his grandfather Prahlad, and also with the Lord Vamanadev. Bali Maharaj's son Banasura was saved by association with his father and Lord Shiva. He also associated with Lord Krishna personally when the Lord cut off all but 2 of his 1,000 arms, which had been awarded as a benediction by Lord Shiva. Understanding the glories of Lord Krishna, Banasura also became a great devotee. The demon Mayadanava constructed yet an assembly house for the Pandavas and also associated with Lord Krishna himself, eventually achieving the shelter of the Lord. Bibhishana was a pious-natured demon, the brother of Ravana, and he associated with Hanuman and Ramachandra. Sugriva, Hanuman, Jambavan, and Gajendra are examples of animals who achieved the mercy of the Lord. Jambavan, or Riksharaj, was a member of a race of bears. He personally associated with Lord Krishna, fighting with him over the Syamantaka jewel. The elephant Gajendra, in a previous life, had association with devotees, and at the end of his life as Gajendra, he was personally saved by the Lord. Jatayu, the bird who at the cost of his own life assisted Lord Ramachandra, associated with Sri Garuda and Maharaj Dasharath, as well as other devotees in Rama. He also personally met with Sita and Lord Rama. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the association that the Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Siddhas, Charanas, Goyakas, and Vijadaras had with the devotees is not very prominent and does not need to be mentioned. Vanikpata is a Vaishya, and his story is mentioned in the Mahabharata in connection with the pride of Jajali Muni. The importance of association with devotees is illustrated in the story of Dharma Vyadha, a non-violent hunter, as described in the Varaha Purana. In a previous life, he somehow became a Brahma Rakshasa, or Brahmana ghost, but was eventually saved. In a previous Kali Yuga, he had the association of a Vaishnava king named Vasu. The lady Kubja associated directly with Lord Krishna, and in her previous birth, she had associated with Sri Narada Muni. The gopis of Vrindavan rendered service to saintly persons in their previous births. Having had ample association with devotees, they became gopis in Vrindavan in their next lives and associated with the eternally liberated gopis who had descended there. They also had association with Tulsi Devi, or Vrinda Devi. The wives of the Brahmanas performing sacrifice had association with women sent by Lord Krishna to sell flower garlands and betel nuts and heard about the Lord from them. Text 7. The persons I have mentioned did not undergo serious studies of the Vedic literature, nor did they worship great saintly persons, nor did they execute severe vows or austerities. Simply by associating with me and my devotees, they achieved me. Purport. Study of the Vedic literature, worship of those who teach the Shruti mantras, Acceptance of vows and austerities, etc., as mentioned previously, are helpful processes that please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, however, the Lord again explains that all such processes are secondary. Excuse me. Hare Krishna. Cheers. In this verse, however, the Lord, where was I? Yes, in this verse, however, the Lord again explains that all such processes are secondary to the essential process of associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His pure devotees. By other processes, one may gain the association of the Lord and His devotees, which will actually give the perfection of life. The word matsangat can also be read as satsangat, with the same meaning. In the reading matsangat, from association with me, mat is also understood to indicate those who are mine, or the devotees. Srila Sridhar Swami mentions that a pure devotee can advance in Krishna consciousness by his own association. Well, shall you hear that again? Shall we hear that again? Sure. Srila Sridhar Swami mentions that a pure devotee can advance in Krishna consciousness by his own association, since simply by associating with his own activities and consciousness, he associates with the Lord. Text 8. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the gopis, cows, unmoving creatures, such as the twin Arjuna trees, animals, living entities with stunted consciousness, such as bushes and thickets, and snakes, such as Kaliya, all achieve the perfection of life by unalloyed love for me, and thus very easily achieved me. Purport. Although innumerable living entities achieved liberation by association with the Lord and His devotees, many such personalities also executed other processes, such as austerity, charity, philosophical speculation, and so on. But as we have already explained, such procedures are secondary. But the inhabitants of Vrindavan, such as the gopis, did not know anything except Lord Krishna, and their whole purpose in life was simply to love Lord Krishna, as indicated here by the words Kevalena hi bhavena. Even the trees, bushes, and hills, such as Govardhan, loved Lord Krishna, as the Lord explains to his brother, Sri Baladev, in the 10th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam 10:15, 5. Aho ami deva varamararchitam padam bhujam te sumanak palarhanam namanchupadaya chikabhir atmanas tamo pahitatyai tarujan mayat kritam. My dear brother Baladev, just see how these trees are bowing down with their branches and offering obeisances to your lotus feet, which are worshipable even by the demigods. Indeed, my dear brother, you are the Supreme God, and thus these trees have produced fruits and flowers as an offering to you. Although a living entity takes birth as a tree due to the mode of ignorance, certainly by such a birth in Vrindavan, these trees are destroying all darkness in their lives by serving your lotus feet. Although many living entities achieved the mercy of Lord Krishna by associating with the Lord and His devotees in various ways, those who take Lord Krishna as everything are situated in the highest process of self-realization. Therefore, the Lord has not bothered to mention in this verse those who achieved perfection through mixed processes, but rather glorifies the unalloyed devotees of Vrindavan, headed by the gopis, who knew nothing but Lord Krishna. The residents of Vrindavan were so satisfied in their relationships with Lord Krishna that they did not pollute their loving service with mental speculation or fruitive activities. The gopis served Lord Krishna in the conjugal rasa, or relationship, whereas according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the cows loved Lord Krishna in Vatsalya rasa, or the love of parents for a child, because the cows were always supplying milk to child Krishna. Unmoving objects like Govardhan Hill and other mountains, hills and mountains, loved Lord Krishna as a friend, and the ordinary animals, trees and bushes of Vrindavan loved Lord Krishna in Dasya rasa, or with love of a servant for his master. Snakes like Kaliya also developed this love in servitude, and after relishing their loving service to Lord Krishna, all of them went back home, back to Godhead. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, all those inhabitants of Vrindavan should be considered eternally liberated souls, as expressed by the word siddha, which means having achieved the perfection of life. I heard Gopi Puranadana Prabhu give a lecture today, and he was talking about the Bhagavad Gita. And he came to the conclusion that, during the Gita, there's different statements by Krishna. Now I'm going to explain to you confidential knowledge. Now I'm going to explain to you the most confidential knowledge. Then he said, I'm going to explain to you knowledge even confidential than that. Then I'm going to knowledge even better than that. And at the end, right at the end, 18th chapter, when he says, I'm going to give you the most confidential knowledge, and then he gives Manmana Bhava Madbhakto, which is the same as the end of the confidential knowledge in the 9th chapter. Then he says, Sarva Dharman Parichaja, Mam Ekam Sharanam. Forget everything else and just surrender to me. That's it. That's it. And that some acharyas comment that Sarva Dharman Parichaja, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. The Vraja means go to this, go to me only. And some comment that the Braja means Braja, because that's actually the mood of Braja, only Krishna, and we're reading about it here, how everyone else is, aspiring for this. Hare Krishna. So who says that not everything is in the Gita? Everything is in the Gita. Text 9. Even though one engages with great endeavor in the mystic yoga system, philosophical speculation, charity, vows, penances, ritualistic sacrifices, teaching of Vedic mantras to others, personal study of the Vedas, or the renounced order of life, still one cannot achieve me. Purport. Lord Krishna here explains that it is very difficult to achieve his personal association, even for one who seriously endeavors to reach the absolute truth. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, such as the gopis and cows, were always living with Lord Krishna, and thus their association is called satsanga. Anyone who is favorably living with the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes sat, or eternal, and thus the association of such a person can immediately award others pure devotional service to the Lord. There is an austerity called Chandrayana, a fast in which one's intake of food is diminished by one mouthful each day as the moon wanes, and increased in the same way as the moon waxes. Similarly, there are painstaking ritualistic sacrifices and grueling studies of the Sanskrit Vedic mantras, which one may also teach to others. All these tedious activities cannot award the highest perfection of life unless one gets the causeless mercy of the pure devotees of the Lord. As stated in the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam 128, Dharmak Swanushtitak Pungsang Vishwaksena Katasuyaha Notpadayat Yadi Ratim Shrama Eva Hikevalam. The occupational activities a man performs, according to his own position, are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Text 10. The residents of Vrindavan, headed by the gopis, were always completely attached to me with deepest love. Therefore, when my uncle Akrura brought my brother Balaram and me to the city of Mathura, the residents of Vrindavan suffered extreme mental distress because of separation from me and could not find any other source of happiness. Purport. This verse especially describes the sentiments of the cowherd girls of Vrindavan, the gopis. And Lord Krishna here reveals the incomparable love they felt for him. As explained in the 10th canto, Lord Krishna's uncle Akrura, sent by Kamsa, came to Vrindavan and took Krishna and Balaram back to Mathura for a wrestling event. The gopis loved Lord Krishna so much that in his absence, their consciousness was completely absorbed in spiritual love. Thus, their Krishna consciousness is considered the highest perfectional stage of life. They were always expecting that Lord Krishna would finish his business of killing demons and return to them, and therefore their anxiety was an extremely moving, heart-rending display of love. Anyone desiring true happiness must take to the devotional service of the Lord in the spirit of the gopis, giving up everything for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Text 11. What was the name of the chapter? Above renunciation and
Beyond renunciation.
beyond
Renunciation
and
knowledge.
knowledge. Synonyms. Text 11. Dear Uddhava, all of those nights that the gopis spent with me, their most dearly beloved, in the land of Vrindavan, seemed to them to pass in less than a moment. Bereft of my association, however, the gopis felt that those same nights dragged on forever, as if each night were equal to a day of Brahma. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami comments as follows. The gopis suffered extreme anxiety in the absence of Lord Krishna. And though outwardly appearing bewildered, they actually achieved the highest perfectional stage of samadhi. Their consciousness was intensely and intimately attached to Lord Krishna. And by such Krishna consciousness, their own bodies seemed very far away from them, even though people normally consider their body to be their closest possession. In fact, the gopis did not think about their own existence. Although a young woman normally considers her husband and children to be her dearmost possessions, the gopis did not even consider the existence of their so-called families, nor could they think of this world or life after death. Indeed, they were not at all aware of these things, just like the sages who become detached from the names and forms of the material world. The gopis could not think of anything because they were wrapped in loving remembrance of Lord Krishna. Just as rivers enter the ocean, similarly the gopis completely merged into consciousness of Lord Krishna through intense love. Thus a day of Brahma seemed like a single moment for the gopis when Lord Krishna was present with them, and a single moment seemed like a day of Brahma. Whoa. This is not just poetic. Krishna actually expanded the night, so it was a night of Brahma, so they could experience the rasa dance forever. But it went like that. Thus, a day of Brahma seemed like a single moment for the gopis. But when Lord Krishna was present before them, and a single moment seemed like a day of Brahma when Lord Krishna was absent. The Krishna consciousness of the gopis is the perfection of spiritual life, and the symptoms of such perfection are described here. Text 12. And what's the price? Would someone like to volunteer the answer? The price you pay for getting this? Making one devotee. Making one pure devotee. Absolutely pure devotee. That's the price. Text 12. My dear Uddhava, just as great sages in yoga trance merge into self-realization, like rivers merging into the ocean, and are thus not aware of material names and forms. Similarly, the gopis of Vrindavan were so completely attached to me within their minds that they could not think of their own bodies, or of this world, or of their future lives. Their entire consciousness was simply bound up in me. Purport. The words swam atmanam adastade dam indicate that while for ordinary persons one's personal body is the most near and dear thing, the gopis consider their own bodies to be distant and remote, just as a yogi in samadhi trance considers ordinary things around his physical body, or his physical body itself, to be most remote. When Krishna played on his flute late at night, the gopis immediately forgot everything about their so-called husbands and children and went to dance with Lord Krishna in the forest. These controversial points have been very clearly explained in the book Krishna by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada. The basic explanation is that Lord Krishna is the source of everything, and the gopis are the Lord's own potency. Thus there is no discrepancy or immorality in the almighty personality of Godhead's loving affairs with His own manifest potency, the gopis, who happen to be the most beautiful young girls in the creation of God. There is no illusion on the part of the gopis, for they are so attracted to Lord Krishna that they do not care to think of anything else. Since all existence is situated within the body of Lord Krishna, there is no loss for the gopis when they concentrate on the Lord. It is the nature of very deep love to exclude all objects except the beloved. However, in the material world, where we try to love a limited temporary object, such as our nation, family, or personal body, our exclusion of other objects constitutes ignorance. But when our love is intensely concentrated on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of everything, such concentration cannot be considered ignorance or small-mindedness. The example of the sages in Samadhi is given here only to illustrate exclusive concentration on a single object. Otherwise, there is no comparison between the ecstatic love of the gopis and the dry meditation of the yogis, who merely try to understand that they are not their material bodies. Since the gopis had no material bodies to become detached from, and were personally dancing with and embracing the absolute truth, one can never compare the exalted position of the gopis to that of mere yogis. It is stated that the bliss of impersonal Brahman realization cannot be compared to even an atomic fragment of the blissful ocean of love of Krishna. Intimate attachment is like a strong rope that binds the mind and heart. In material life, we are bound to that which is temporary and illusory, and therefore such binding of the heart causes great pain. However, if we bind our minds and hearts to the eternal Lord Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure and beauty, then our hearts will expand unlimitedly in the ocean of transcendental bliss. Shall I read that again? Okay. However, if we bind our minds and hearts to the eternal Lord Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure and beauty, then our hearts will expand unlimitedly in the ocean of transcendental bliss. One should understand that the gopis were not in any way inclined toward impersonal meditation, in which one denies the reality of variegated creation. The gopis did not deny anything. They simply loved Krishna and could not think of anything else. They only rejected whatever impeded their concentration on Lord Krishna, cursing even their own eyelids, which blinked and thus removed Krishna from their sight for a split second. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated that all sincere devotees of the Lord should have the courage to remove from their lives anything that impedes their progressive march back home, back to Godhead. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated that all sincere devotees of the Lord should have the courage to remove from their lives anything that impedes their progressive march back home, back to Godhead. It's like, the winning Hail Mary touchstone pass at the end of the Super Soul, and guy catches it. Yeah, that's it. Perfection of life. I don't need anything else. What complete illusion. And it lasts for how long? A couple of seconds. Or maybe they go, celebrate and binge on something or other. And then the next morning they wake up and it's like, hell, they're in hell. Text 13. All those hundreds of thousands of gopis, understanding me to be their most charming lover and ardently desiring me in that way, were unaware of my actual position. Yet by intimately associating with me, the gopis attained me, the supreme absolute truth. Purport. The words asarupa vida, not understanding my actual position or form, indicates that the lovely gopis were so completely absorbed in conjugal love for Lord Krishna that they were not aware of the Lord's unlimited potencies as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this and other meanings of the word aswarupa vida. In Sanskrit, the word vid also means to acquire. Thus, aswarupa vida indicates that the gopis, like other pure devotees of the Lord, were not interested in achieving sarupya mukti, the liberation of acquiring a bodily form similar to the Lord's. Were the gopis to obtain a bodily form like the Lord's, how could the Lord execute his conjugal pastimes of dancing with the gopis and embracing them? No way. Since the gopis had realized their eternal spiritual forms as servitors of the Lord, the word sarupa also may indicate their own spiritual bodies, and thus asarupa vida means that the gopis never thought, as materialists do, of their own bodily beauty. Although the gopis are the most beautiful girls in the Lord's creation, they never thought of their own bodies, but rather were always meditating on the transcendental body of Lord Krishna. Although we cannot imitate the gopis' exalted conjugal feelings, we can follow their superb example of practical Krishna consciousness. They naturally took shelter of Lord Krishna and achieved the highest perfection of life. Hare Krishna. What time is it? What time did we start? 4:30? 4:40? Huh? 5:20? 4:40. Okay. Text 14 and 15. Therefore, my dear Uddhava, abandon the Vedic mantras as well as the procedures of supplementary Vedic literatures and their positive and negative injunctions. Disregard that which has been heard, and that which is to be heard. Simply take shelter of me alone, for I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, situated within the heart of all conditioned souls. Take shelter of me wholeheartedly, and by my grace, be free from fear in all circumstances. What a nice verse. Does anybody want to hear that again? Okay. Therefore, my dear, this was what he wanted him to go and teach to the sages at Bhadragashram. Therefore, my dear Uddhava, abandon the Vedic mantras as well as the procedures of supplementary Vedic literatures and their positive and negative injunctions. Disregard that which has been heard and that which is to be heard. Simply take shelter of me alone, for I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, situated within the heart of all conditioned souls. Take shelter of me wholeheartedly, and by my grace, be free from fear in all circumstances. This is the actual strategy for making devotees. If you become like this, then automatically you'll make devotees. Purport. Sri Uddhava inquired from Lord Krishna about the symptoms of saintly persons and liberated souls, and the Lord has replied in terms of different levels of spiritual advancement, distinguishing between those who are able to understand Lord Krishna to be the principal goal of life and those loving devotees who accept Lord Krishna and devotional service to him as the only goal of life. Lord Krishna also mentioned that he is captured by his loving devotees and even by those who sincerely associate with his loving devotees. Among all the devotees, the gopis of Vrindavan were described by the Lord as having achieved such a rare state of pure devotional service that Lord Krishna personally feels constantly indebted to them. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Krishna previously kept the gopis' love for him concealed in his heart because of its confidential nature and the Lord's own gravity. Finally, however, even Lord Krishna could not remain silent about the intense love of the gopis. And thus in these verses, the Lord reveals to Uddhava how the gopis loved him in Vrindavan and brought him fully under their control. The Lord would relax in secret places with the loving gopis, and by conjugal, spontaneous affection, the greatest love was exchanged between them. As explained by the Lord in the... Well, this guy's got some culture. Do you hear the difference? It's got your man, not wah, until you want to just jump out of your skin. Huh? A little cultured. Sunday. Maybe it's because it's Sunday. They know we're worshiping over here. Okay. I'm going to start from the beginning of this paragraph. As explained by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, one cannot achieve the perfection of life merely by renouncing the material world or by executing ordinary sectarian religious principles. One must actually understand the identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by associating with his pure devotees, one must learn to love the Lord in his personal, original form. This love may be expressed in either the conjugal, parental, fraternal, or serving rasa, or relationship. The Lord has elaborately explained to Uddhava the system of philosophical analysis of the material world. And now he clearly concludes that it is useless for Uddhava to waste time in fruitive activities or mental speculation. Actually, Lord Krishna is hinting that Uddhava should assimilate the example of the gopis and try to advance further in Krishna consciousness by following in the footsteps of the cowherd damsels of Braja. Any conditioned soul who was unsatisfied with the cruel laws of nature. How many of us are dissatisfied with the cruel laws of nature? Shy, Haribo, here they are. Here it is. Actually, Lord Krishna is hinting that Uddhava should assimilate the example of the gopis and try to advance further in Krishna consciousness by following in the footsteps of the cowherd damsels of Braja. Any conditioned soul who is unsatisfied with the cruel laws of nature, which impose disease, old age, and death, should understand that Lord Krishna can deliver all living beings from the problems of material existence. There is no need to entangle oneself in unauthorized sectarian rituals, injunctions, or prohibitions. One should simply surrender to Lord Krishna, following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Lord Krishna himself. By the authorized, regulated process of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, one easily achieves spiritual perfection. Text 16. Sri Uddhava said, O Lord of all masters of mystic power, I have heard your words, but the doubt in my heart does not go away. Thus my mind is bewildered. Sound familiar? Purport. In the first verse of the 10th chapter of this canto, the Lord stated that one should take care of him and execute one's duties within the varnashram system without material desire. Uddhava interpreted this statement as recommending karma mishra bhakti, or devotional service mixed with the tendency toward fruitive activities. It is a fact that until one understands Lord Krishna to be everything, it is not possible to retire to ordinary worldly duties. Rather, one is encouraged to offer the fruits of such work to the Lord. In verse 4 of the 10th chapter, the Lord recommended that one retire from worldly duties and systematically cultivate knowledge, accepting Him as the Supreme. Uddhava understood this instruction to indicate Jnana-mishra bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord mixed with the secondary desire to accumulate knowledge. Beginning with verse 35 of the 10th chapter, Uddhava inquired about the process of material conditioning and liberation from material life. The Lord replied elaborately, stating that without devotional service, the process of philosophical speculation can never be perfected. In chapter 11, verse 18, the Lord emphasized the importance of faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in verse 23, Krishna extensively widened his discussion of devotional service, emphasizing that one should be faithful and hear and chant the glories of the Lord. The Lord concluded that both the development and perfection of devotional service depend on association with the devotees. In verse 26 of the 11th chapter, Uddhava inquired about the actual ways and means of devotional service and about the symptoms of devotional perfection. And in verse 48, Lord Krishna stated that unless one takes to the process of devotional service, one's attempt for liberation will be useless. One must associate with the devotees of the Lord and follow in their footsteps. Finally, in verse 14 of this chapter, the Lord categorically rejected the paths of fruitive activities and mental speculation, and in verse 15 recommended that one exclusively surrender unto Him with all one's heart. Having received such elaborate and technical instructions on the perfection of life, Uddhava is bewildered, and his mind is afflicted with doubt about what he should actually do. Lord Krishna has described many procedures, and the results of such procedures all of which ultimately lead to the single goal of Lord Krishna himself. Uddhava therefore desires that Lord Krishna state in simple terms what should be done. Arjuna makes a simple request of the Lord at the beginning of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Uddhava is stating here, "My dear friend Krishna, first you recommend that I perform worldly activities within the Varnashram system, and then you advised that I reject such activities and take to the path of philosophical research. Now, rejecting the path of jnana, you recommended that I simply surrender unto you in bhakti yoga. If I accept your decision, in the future you may again go back to your original point and recommend worldly activities." By his boldness in disclosing his mind, Uddhava reveals his intimate friendship with Lord Krishna. Text 17. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, the Supreme Lord gives life to every living being and is situated within the heart, along with the life air and primal sound vibration. The Lord can be perceived in his subtle form within the heart by one's mind. Since the Lord controls the minds of everyone, even great demigods like Lord Shiva. The Supreme Lord also assumes a gross form as the various sounds of the Vedas, composed of short and long vowels and consonants of different intonations." Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments as follows on the dialogue between Lord Krishna and Uddhava. Uddhava was bewildered and doubtful because Lord Krishna explained many different processes such as devotional service, speculative knowledge, renunciation, mystic yoga, austerities, pious duties, and so on. However, all of these processes are meant to help the living entities obtain the shelter of Lord Krishna. And ultimately, no Vedic process should be understood in any other way. Thus, Lord Krishna explained the entire Vedic system, placing everything in proper order. In fact, Lord Krishna was surprised that Uddhava foolishly thought that he was meant to practice every process, as if each method were meant simply for him. The Lord Krishna therefore wants to inform his devotee, "My dear Uddhava, when I told you that analytic knowledge is to be practiced, pious duties are to be performed, devotional service is obligatory, yoga procedures must be observed, and austerities are to be executed, etc., I was instructing all living entities, using you as my immediate audience. That which I have spoken, am speaking now, and will speak in the future, should be understood as guidance for all living entities in different situations. How could you possibly think that you were meant to practice all of the different Vedic processes? I accept you as you are now, my pure devotee. You are not supposed to execute all of these processes." Thus, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord, with light-hearted and encouraging words, reveals to Uddhava the deep purpose behind the variety of Vedic procedures. Krishna became manifest from the mouth of Lord Brahma in the form of the Vedas. The word Vivara Prasuti in this verse also indicates that the Lord is manifest within the Adharadi chakras, situated within the body of Lord Brahma. The word Goshena means subtle sound, and Guham Pravishta also indicates that Lord Krishna enters within the Adhara chakra. The Lord can further be perceived within other chakras, such as the Manipuraka chakra, located around the navel, and the Phushudi chakra. The Sanskrit alphabet is composed of short and long vowels and consonants pronounced with high and low tones. Utilizing these vibrations, the different branches of Vedic literatures are manifested as a gross form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Bhagavad Gita, such literatures deal mostly with the three modes of material nature. Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunyo Bhavarjana. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that due to the control of the illusory energy Maya, the personality of Godhead appears to the conditioned souls as part of the material universe. The imagined imposition of gross and subtle material qualities on the personality of Godhead is called avidya, or ignorance. And through such ignorance, the living entity considers himself to be the doer of his own activities and becomes bound up in the network of karma. The Vedas therefore order an entangled soul to observe positive and negative injunctions to purify his existence. These procedures are called pravritti marg, or the path of regulated fruitive activities. When one has purified one's existence, one gives up this gross stage of fruitive activities because it is detrimental to the practice of pure devotional service. By firm faith, one may then worship the personality of Godhead. One who has developed perfect Krishna consciousness no longer has to perform ritualistic duties. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, tasya karya navidyate. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, this verse may be understood in another way. The word Jiva indicates Lord Krishna, who gives life to the residents of Vrindavan. And Vivada Prasuti indicates that although Lord Krishna eternally performs his pastimes in the spiritual world, beyond the vision of the conditioned souls, he also enters within the material universe to display these same pastimes. The words Guham Pravishta indicates that after displaying such pastimes, the Lord withdraws them and enters into his unmanifest pastimes, or those pastimes not manifest to the conditioned souls. In this case, matra indicates the transcendental senses of the Lord. Swara indicates the Lord's transcendental sound vibration, and singing, and the vibration and singing, and the word varna indicates the transcendental form of the Lord. The word stavishta, or gross manifestation, means that the Lord becomes manifest in the material world, even to those devotees who are not completely advanced in Krishna consciousness, and whose vision is not completely purified. Manomaya indicates that somehow or other, Lord Krishna is to be kept within one's mind. And for the non-devotees, Lord Krishna is sukshma, or most subtle, because he cannot be known. Thus, different acharyas have glorified Lord Krishna in different ways through the transcendental sound vibration of this verse. What a delightful way to have your consciousness expanded, isn't it? Okay, we'll stop our reading for tonight there. Hare Krishna. A lot to work on there. Okay, open mic time. Yes, Prana. Start us off. I think I'm going to start going around the room, though, getting something from everybody. Better start to, oops, if I'd say that, then nobody will show up tomorrow. Okay, I won't do that. Not fair.
I have a question. So, We heard about how study of the Vedas does not produce, the transcendental effect. It's not, how does it say? It said that it doesn't, it's not a cause of pure devotional service, study the Vedas. So my question is, does that apply to the Bhaktivedanta purports?
You're joking. You know this? You know my response? It's like Krishna's to Uddhava says, how can you be so stupid to think like that or even ask the question? The key to the whole thing was the association of a pure devotee. And what does that do? I'm looking for the verse. You can help me find it? No scholargy. Nahi Shruti Vipatipanate Yadastasiti Nischala Samada Achala Buddhis Tata Avamabhajasi. When you become indifferent to what you've heard and what you will hear in the future, including everything. Where's that verse? I'm going to find it. Do you remember? Second chapter. But where? It's 72 pages, 72 verses. It's just before.
It's right after the.
Yeah, just after that, Krishna, Arjuna asks his first question. No?
Yeah,
I think so.
250.
So what? Two. I got it. 53, 52 and 53. These are just right out of the Bhagavad Gita. He was speaking to Arjuna. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitirishyati tada gantasi nividam shrotavyasya chutasya cha. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. Shruti vipatipanate yada stasati nischala samadao achala buddhis tada yogamavapchasi. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. And then, Krishna then Arjuna asks him, oh, so what is that? What is the symptoms of those who one of consciousness is merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he talk? So that's not just a simple question. That's not the answer like the next verse. There's like many verses that fit together in that for that. So this is the point that our acharyas are making in commenting to all these verses we just heard. How Krishna explains so many different things to everybody in the universe. And somebody's fits in there. All of us, each one of us fits in there somewhere. And it's up to us. But then he says, the way out of that labyrinth is the association of pure devotee submissively. So the problem is in us, the problem is the doubt and the inability that has been caused by associating in the material world for such a long time and having been let down by so many people, one after the other, after the other, after the other. But rather than having that cause us to become, bitter and doubtful and skeptic of anybody and everything, and get just, stuck in the mud of that consciousness, we associate with the pure devotees. And that's what this is about. The purports, the Bhaktivedanta purports. Therefore, in the Bhaktivedanta purports, almost in every purport, he takes whatever it is that's being talked about and he brings it to Krishna consciousness, isn't it? That's the answer. Bhaktivedanta purports are non-different than Prabhupada, and they have the capacity to lift you out of the material energy just by hearing. And I have personal example, my mother. She was so averse to Krishna consciousness because her only son, her pride and joy had ran away. And, and I kept writing letters, and I kept writing. I got a whole, shoebox full of letters that she kept, that I sent. And it started out like preaching, me, intense, come on, you're going to become a devotee now, and come sit here, and, okay, now we'll teach you how to wear a sari, and, I've always been like that, sorry, Hare Krishna. And then gradually I kind of backed off from that, and I started just telling her where I was, what the weather was like, and Jai Maharaj, Hari Bol, okay, it certainly is. So then, then I started just saying, what I was doing, like almost showing off, okay, I've got this service, and see how I was going up the ladder, and, I had a whole country to take care of, and this much, I was managing the finances, and this and that, the other thing, and we had so much money in the bank, we were spending it like this and like that. And I just took it to that stage. And, there was nothing coming back. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell what was going on. Then one day, I got this phone call from a friend of my wife who didn't want to contact me directly because I was sannyasi. And she said, your mother's worried because you stopped writing. And because I didn't stop writing. I was writing once every 2 weeks, once every something. And then I thought, something's wrong. And just after that, I got another phone call that she had lost consciousness and she was in the hospital. So I called her in the hospital from Bombay. And at first, she didn't understand what was going on. She didn't understand who it was that was talking to her. Nothing. And then as I talked to her, as she heard the sound of my voice and I explained who I was and what I was doing, this, oh yes. Yeah? I said, right, Mom, you're getting it. And then she kind of came back, and then I just got on the next plane. I don't know how that happened. I sold my computer, got $100 from Bima. That's all he would give me, God. It was the ad hoc TP, and all I could get was $100 out of Bima. It was ridiculous. Anyway, so I sold my computer, and I just got on a plane, and I went. And I went to the hospital, and there she was, laying there. And as soon as she saw me, her eyes opened wide. And she's, come here. And I went there, and she grabbed me and hugged me, tears flowing out of her eyes. And I said, she said, please forgive me. I said, Mom, please forgive me. I wasn't that walked out of your life, and I'm not taking care of you like a good son. No. I've been this and that and the other thing. Then finally we ended up, taking her home, and it was like, and anyway, there were different things that happened, but finally it came to the point where it was, terminal. And I had she insisted that I go back to Bombay. She was so proud. She didn't want to lose, she didn't want to put him in hospital. She didn't want to lose her independence. She didn't want to stop driving. She's like, this is just 78. No, she's 78. I'm 73. Hare Krishna. Is anybody listening? I got to finish these audiobooks, please. Whatever you do. So then, at one point, when I went back to see her, and then there was an appointment with the doctor, and it was then, terminal. And then I made the decision I would stay with her until she left. And I called up Shiva Maharaj, I called up Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and they both said, yes, you have to do this. Krishna arranged it. There's no one else. There was no one else for her. Nothing. Mother and brother were completely gone, old, couldn't move, lived far away. Her minister, she was very devout, Methodist, First Methodist Church, and the minister, who was kind of like the only person that she had some spiritual, any kind of connection, spiritual teachings with, he was caught up in the politics of the church. And, he was trying to find another church. So he disappeared. And Krishna just arranged it. It was just me, And then my point I'm making is how I saw Prabhupada's words lift her out. I put her books right next to her where she sat, the testimonial, Christian testimonial books. Those are the kind of books that she read. So I said, but I put them right there, but she couldn't do it. She couldn't pick them up and read them. And when we were talking, she was very lucid and then when I stopped talking, she was just immediately like, a person looks like going to leave their body. It was intense. So I said, okay, Mom, why don't you let me read to you? She said, okay, that's a good idea. So I started reading the Krishna book. And, at first it was just a few minutes, 15 minutes, that's all she could take. What is this, some kind of nursery rhyme you're telling me? What do you think, I'm a child or something? I said, no, Mom, this is Krishna. Remember, I wrote all those letters, remember, a long time ago about Krishna. And this is God. This is what God does in the spiritual world. And then I just kept reading, And I was, like reading here, I try to read, as intense as possible and not, take my, eye off the... So I was reading, and I think it was third day in, or fourth day in, and she was sitting there, like, kind of, and then I looked up, and she was sitting just like this, on the edge of the couch, like this. And you could see her ears. I mean, not really, I'm just poetic. And I said, Mom, you like this, don't you? She said, this is the most wonderful thing. I've never heard anything like this before. And I said, oh, this is the, this is part of a book. This is the 10th canto. So go back to the beginning. I have all kinds of questions. And then it started. Yeah. And then just within a few days, she took initiation. Yeah. Chanted Hare Krishna. First time she said Hare Krishna out of her mouth, it just, boom, put me on the floor practically. So powerful. Inoffensive chanting. Complete force of circumstance. Prabhupada's purports. They can take anybody out of this world. And that's why I do this. Every single day, no matter what, and I'll do it for the rest of my life. Because I'm just waiting for Krishna in the heart and through Nitya to bring them in, the ones that can hear like this and make this the goal of their lives. And it doesn't make any difference what platform they're on, what they know or this and that. This Laura, she's a devotee. She's a devotee. She's ready.
She's very ready.
She's very ready. Oh yeah. And okay, so we have to go through a lot to get to one like that, but it's worth it. Just one. So don't worry too much about how many and this plan and that plan and this and that. Just this. And concentrate on boiling the milk, boiling the milk, boiling the milk. And those persons who are ready, they'll come through the door. Guaranteed. And even if one comes and then can't quite get there, that's okay. They got something tangible. Therefore, I made the point. This is the price of admission. Just one person to make them actually an unalloyed devotee. Doesn't mean they have to be a sannyasi and traveling preacher and guru, this and that. Just one person who's just given themselves to Krishna without reservation. Go ahead.
I really like the point also in the purports today was how Krishna explained to Uddhava that the difference between the Brajavasis, specifically the Gopis and others, he distinguished between those who are able to understand that Lord Krishna is the principal goal of life, and he distinguishes that there's those loving devotees who accept Lord Krishna and devotional service to him as the only goal of life. So I thought that was a good point.
Yes. And then if you get to with a person like that, and somehow or other associate with them, you can get the whole thing. no matter who you are. So we should be, among all the personalities of the world, we should be those who want to take a person right to there. And if we have to go, this and that, that's okay. But that should be the only goal. Take them right to there.
Would you say that first we have to also imbibe that ourselves? Like
you can't be a person who does that. You can't give what you don't have. But because Lord Chaitanya's, I was reading, oh my God, this 7th chapter is too much. Right at the end of the 7th chapter, Prabhupada says what the only purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement is. It's right there. I wonder if I can find it. I can, because I think I highlighted it. I'm going to put it in my offering to beat everybody over the head with for the 6th year in a row. Hare Krishna. Sorry. We're on 18. Don't forget this number. Right? We're on 18. I'm going to go somewhere else here. Okay. I hope it saved the Adi Lila, chapter 7. Oh yeah, it's way at they started at the end. Anyway, I'll get there. I'll get there. We'll get there. We'll all get there together. That's what ISKCON is. Darn it. There it is. Ready? The 9 kinds of devotional service are hearing about Krishna, chanting about Him, remembering Him, offering service to His lotus feet, offering Him worship in the temple, offering prayers to Him, working as His servant, making friendship with Him, and unreservedly surrendering to Him. One can directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by executing these 9 kinds of devotional service, of which hearing about the Lord is the most important, Shavanadi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has very favorably stressed the importance of this process of hearing. According to his method, if people are simply given a chance to hear about Krishna, certainly they will gradually develop their dormant awareness or love of Godhead. Shavanadi Shuddhe Chitte Karya Uday. Love of God is dormant in everyone, and if one is given a chance to hear about the Lord, certainly that love develops. Our Krishna consciousness movement acts on this principle. We simply give people the chance to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and give them prasadam. To eat. There's different kinds of prasadam, but prasadam to eat. And the actual result is that all over the world, people are responding to this process of becoming pure devotees of Lord Krishna. And now this is the part that I highlighted. We have opened hundreds of centers all over the world just to give people in general a chance to hear about Krishna and accept Krishna's prasadam. These 2 processes can be accepted by anyone, even a child. It doesn't matter whether one is poor or rich, learned or foolish, black or white, old or still a child. Anyone who simply hears about the Supreme of Godhead and takes prasadam is certainly elevated to the transcendental position of devotional service. And there was one more, I think. in this one, he's talking about we are propagating the Krishna consciousness movement simply by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We may not be very well versed in the Vedanta Sutra aphorisms and may not understand their meaning. But we follow in the footsteps of the acharyas, and because of our strictly and obediently following in the footsteps of the acharyas, and because of our strictly and obediently following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is to be understood that we know everything regarding the Vedanta Sutra. I mean, how pleasing was Prabhupada, how encouraging you could, and how encouraging is Lord Chaitanya in his movement. So we shouldn't be, we should just be encouraging to everybody, no matter who they are. But bring them to the stage of hearing with us, and that'll do the job. Okay, I'll stop here. It's after 6. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Uddhava Gita ki jai. Lord Sri Krishna ki jai. The process of pure devotional service, remembering the lotus feet of the Lord ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, see you tomorrow. Wait, what's today? Sunday? Okay, tomorrow's Monday, 6 o'clock, right here in Radha Lane, the live studios. Hari Krishna. Sleep tight. See you tomorrow. Hari Bol.